Wow, Spirit just did something. They were like, too long-winded, let's go. And they literally, my phone just went boop and closed. Wow. Okay, moving on, right? Don't allow yourself to be pressured into doing things by other people, even if they are your friends and family. You're not like them, and it makes you feel alone and you feel isolated, and it sucks while you're going through it. I have my best friend stop being my best friend. I didn't know why. I now know why. I now know why my spiritual team told me to tell my ex-husband that he needed to cut cords with me and that he could no longer be my best friend. He didn't understand why. I didn't either. But they told me that he would not move forward in his life, and I would not be able to move forward in my life as long as I held that connection. That connection was too strong. And I was on a different path than him. And so when I did release him and he released me, he literally got engaged 6 months later. He moved on fast, right? So it's hard for us. I've had a lot of people, they cry and then they write to me and it's really sad and I don't have any friends and I'm all by myself. And so then you come to the spiritual community. You come to your spiritual team. I just looked up at 111. Keep your thoughts positive, right? You're focusing the future. Don't think that you're alone, because you're not. You're actually not alone. There's a lot more companionship available to you than you're actually allowing yourself to have. Because there's so many more spiritual people in the world. There's so many more people that are awake right now. I keep seeing the seagull, freedom, right? It wasn't the way it was before. Your mission here is very, very important, and there's many more like you out here, right? Millions of others, and they're all going through the same experiences that you are. So find us on Facebook, social media. Find us in your community. Look up sound healing classes. Look up yoga classes. Look up drumming classes. You'll find people like you. You know, some people are going to be way out there, right? And some people are going to be just kind of curious and doing it because they think it's cool. That was the problem in Sedona. That, you know, I rented a home for the first 3 weeks that I was there, and I was invited by the ladies, the lady that owned the place. She's really nice. She just bought a yoga studio and she does sound healing. But she had a party, and there was a lot of Hollywood people because you know, it's cool to be spiritual, right? It's the in thing. People want to be different, right? So and it was at a time that not accepted, and now it is accepted. So for some it's cool, and for some it's just that yay, right? I can just be who I am. But within I asked Joseph if he wanted to go with me to the party, and he said no, I don't associate with them. And it's not that he looked down at them, because he doesn't. He's a very kind person. He says I don't associate with that set. And in a dream, I saw my twin, and he was with someone, and I asked who she was, and he said, she's just part of the set. No, she's just part of he didn't say set, part of the scene I'm in, right? So he said, that's not my scene. And so I went because I was there, and it was very uncomfortable for me. Within 5 minutes, I had probably 50 business cards in my hand, everybody pushing their business, right? It was more of that's what it was. It felt like it was business. And spirituality isn't business to me, right? It's my path. It's my life. This is my work. It's what I do. And so that's why Spirit was trying to show me there's a difference. Don't make this be about money. Don't make this be about how many people are following you, because it doesn't matter if there's 10. It doesn't matter if there's 40,000. It just matters that the right people are going to hear what they need to hear. And you are sitting here feeling like you're all alone, and you're absolutely not, because, you know, there's so many of us that are going through this. And you can ask Spirit to help you, bring to you like-minded people. Send them my way, right? Have somebody, all of a sudden you get a bunch of friend requests on Facebook. I don't know about Facebook right now. I'm having an issue with that, because they sent out something recently about starting 2020, we have to give them the rights for everything about, I don't know, it just to me that's just too much control. So I don't know about that. But you can find on YouTube channels, you can find spiritual people, right? You're gonna find out that you're actually here for a reason, and you feel isolated for a reason. You're going through a transition, and you're gonna realize that, hell, I'm not alone. I am a part of the largest movements in the world in that has ever been. I am part of the love movement. I am part of the United Collective. Could never be alone, right? And I told you yesterday that I have people sending me messages and they know way too much and they say things and they're not who they say they are. And I started to suspect everyone, and I don't like that, because in all reality, there's a lot of people that come to me because of my light and because they recognize someone like them, right? So I have to, and that's why we got the message yesterday that we were protected. That was one of the ones I chose, because we are trying to protect ourselves, because there are darker energies. There are narcissistic spiritual people. There are a lot of catfishers. There are people that will use you. And as an empath, you're going to be very, very giving of your time. You're going to be innocent, and people are there to use you, and they are. And so we need to be awake to that as well, right? So I walk a fine line. I hesitate a lot. I've got a whole list of friend requests, and I look at them all the time, and I don't feel comfortable. Like there's one right here. We have 35 mutual friends. So that, I would look at that and think, okay, what does this person do in his life? Right? Well, started school at the Universe Earth in 1966. Okay, so what you can do is you can go to the top of the page to the timeline. You pull their page up, and then you go timeline, and there's recent. So go back several years, right? So I went back to 2011. So 2011, DNA upgrade, coast to coast, living in the now, interview. 2000 Indigo revolution. Hold on, that's the page I gotta go like. Indigo, so clearly this is somebody that's a spiritual person, right? So I will add that person. But I've got a lot of people that they'll put their last year or whatever, that they catfish people. Well, there's a lot that went flying for that one. Oh, I guess it was only 2. Felt like a lot. I guess there's 3. So I do. I wonder a lot of times, because I've had a lot of problems with these people that keep coming back. The same person keeps coming back, and I know it's somebody that was trying to interfere between my twin soul and I, and so I had a hard time, because I'd befriend people and I would say too much, and they want information about him and me, and I don't like it. So all these other ones, I look at them and I think I don't know. I just don't know. So the deer, the Kabbalah wand, the waters, that was, so now we do air element, which is the turquoise, and 3 flew out actually. The first one is allow love. So somebody is shielding themselves, not wanting to accept the love that's being offered. They're asking for you to give yourself compassion and be compassionate of others. They are letting you know that you are so very understood. I love that unicorn. That unicorn is, I'm always told to look for the white unicorn. The white unicorn is my mate. So, and what I love about this is they both are bowing down. And I like that. That's a good message. Spirit wants us to bow down. That's humble. That's also asking for help. It's also listening, right? I like this a lot. So, allow love. My mom always used to say that whenever the wind chimes would go, that was the angels speaking. Allow love. She's very beautiful, this angel. So, sometimes it's difficult for us as indigos to see people around us that are in a position of authority and realize that we are loved by them. Because they're so sensitive. We're so sensitive that if somebody is in an authority position or an authority figure and they're strict and maybe they don't show their feelings, we don't know that they love us. If there's rules that are put upon us, because we rebel against rules when we're disciplined. So I have said often, just because I'm mad at you doesn't mean I don't love you. I've said that to my kids all the time, and I've said that to my twin. Just because I get upset, just because I'm mad, doesn't mean I don't love you. But it's difficult for an indigo, if you're extremely sensitive, perhaps, to understand that if somebody gets angry at you, that means that they don't love you anymore, or that you feel rejected by them because they got mad, because they said this, or because, they're super, and others will say, God, why do you have to be so stinking sensitive? Like, what if you're the one in your family that's the indigo, the empath, right? And your brother's not at all. And you're super sensitive, and people are like, God, man, stop. Why do you have to be so sensitive? Why do you have to take it so seriously, right? So then what might you do? You might shut down your empathetic feeling, shut it down, because you don't want to feel rejected. And you might pick up the traits of the ones that you're around. Remember yesterday, you need to leave that koi pond. You're in that pond, you're becoming like them. You're not like them. You're taking on their traits. You're taking on their beliefs. You're taking on what isn't yours to take on. You're supposed to ask why. You are. Why? Why? Remember, kids, when you're like 2 years old, 2.5, everything, why? It's raining, why? Because there's clouds in the sky, and when the clouds come together and they squish up together, it's like getting a lemon juice. The clouds can't hold the water, so it rains. Huh. But they ask questions all the time. Now, that might be another thing. You might feel unsettled by somebody who asks very personal questions, right? Or asks a lot of questions of you. But that's because we want to know. We're asking why. We're supposed to ask. And if a situation is unfair, we need to ask, why is that happening? Why is that happening? I don't understand why that's happening. And you're supposed to question this. You're supposed to look and understand that even if something doesn't seem fair, that doesn't mean I don't love you. Or it feels unjust. It doesn't feel, it's like my stepdaughter, Kendra. No, I don't want you taking you're grounded. Why? Because you're not going to take your $50 your grandmother gave you to go buy pot. I'm not having how old are you now? I don't even know how old she was at the age. No, it's not happening. I was rules, right? I told you, my ex didn't want to be a dad, and he didn't want to be a husband. He just wanted to have fun, and kids were doing stuff that kids didn't need to be doing. Right? And I loved her. I didn't want her hurt. I wasn't giving her rules to hurt her. I was giving her rules to stop her from being hurt. And my daughter and I talk about it now, because my grandson is the age, he's older than my daughter was when I married him, and Kendra and her became stepsisters. Sisters. We never said stepsisters. He's older than them. And now she's just like, she's terrified. My daughter's terrified. And I keep a protection all around Trey all the time. I try not to allow myself to worry. He's going to have to learn his lessons, right? Just because he's a child doesn't mean he isn't a spiritual being that came here to learn. He came here to learn, and whatever he's going to go through, he's going to go through. But I'm doing my damnedest to try and work with him about being compassionate with other people. This is another message, right? You must be compassionate to other people. And instead of being, you're popular, you're in with the cool kids, instead of being the ones that everybody looks up to and that nerd over in the corner, or that one that's so strange over in the corner, gets kicked by the mean girls, right? Or by the mean boys or whatever. Why don't you be the one in the popular group to be compassionate to that one? And I so love I just love him. He said to me, I was just telling him that, right, too. I was saying stuff like that. And he goes, Nama, he goes, you know Jack, that's his best friend. And I said, yeah. And he goes, we have a friend, and it's a guy that I don't know his name. And he says he's really, really poor. He doesn't have any money, and his pants are really, really short, and his shoes are super small. He says Jack saved all of his money up, and he bought him shoes for Christmas, and he bought him clothes. He says we all pitch in to buy him clothes. I'm sure that his mother doesn't know that, right? Trey gets an allowance for doing chores. He's supposed to buy food with his money at the school. He doesn't eat very much in school. I didn't really either. My son hardly ate at all. So what is he doing with that money? He's buying this kid clothes. This kid doesn't have clothes. And he says, he's the coolest kid, Mom. He can skate. Mom, I don't know. Nama. He can skate. And I said, well, maybe he could get sponsored. And he goes, yeah, but they don't make much money when they're sponsored. And I said, well, but he was really good at it. And he says he's the coolest kid. And then he has another kid that's... his father beats him all the time. He says he'll just walk up to him and punch him in the stomach. And he is very consciously aware. I told you my grandson's an Indigo child, a crystal child, I'm sorry. He's aware, and he's very empathetic and very compassionate. And so we have to understand that we are not the only ones out there, but we can, instead of being afraid, instead of thinking, oh, they don't care about us, or they're rejecting us, or they're giving us rules because they're being mean to us. Remember I saw that little wolf that was locked down in the basement? That was mean. That was abuse, right? You're grounded because you freaking went down and bought pot from a dealer at age 12 or 13. Hell no, that's not happening. I'm sorry, that's not happening. And these two kids, they talk to each other, and it's funny, Lisi and Kendra. My daughter was very, very jealous of Kendra because she felt that Lisi moved, I told you, I sent her up to Canada. She was up in Canada. Actually, her dad stole her. She went to Canada and she was gone for, I don't know, she wasn't gone that long, a year and a half. And then she came down, and I was already married, and I had Kendra in the house, and Kendra was very close to me, right? And they ended up being friends very quickly. Kendra is a couple years younger than my daughter. But Kendra was a really bad liar. All right, I could read her. She'd give herself away all the time. She would give herself away. She would tell on herself too. My daughter's a great liar. She was molested when she was a little girl, and she's lied to hide things it was self-protection. She was good at lying, right? I could never tell. She could look right in my face and lie to me, and I wouldn't be able to tell. I could never lie because my face would flush. I'm the worst liar, so I don't, because I don't anyway. But with these two kids, the issue was, Kendra, to hear it now from Kendra's point of view, Lisi was always upset, always mad at me, feeling like I favored Kendra and I gave this love to this other child when I was her mother. And I'm like, I gave everybody the same amount of love. I loved them both, right? And she felt like that was my mom. And yet she loved her sister at the same time. They were super close. And she loved Ken. Ken was just as good to her as he was to Kendra, right? But now that my daughter's a mother and she has her own child and she's going through all of this stuff, she is so strict. She is way stricter with Trey than I was with them. And he's he's a triple honor roll student. He has to have his grades at a certain level. I mean, she is very regimented, very, very regimented. When I sent her up to Canada when things were going bad down here, I didn't want my grandson in that environment. She went to her dad's. Her dad is German, and everything was very, very regimented. And his girlfriend works with special needs children. And so I knew that would be a very safe place for Lisi and Trey to be, right? When Trey was very little, and I couldn't have him down here. So she had that, right? So now she's had the way I raised her, and she's had the way her dad raised her, and now she's combining her own stuff and raising Trey. And she's also trying to protect him from outside influences that are very harmful, right? And so now we're hearing stories from friends from Kendra's side, and Kendra said she always felt alone. She always felt that she didn't matter. She said, I was always in trouble. I was always, you were never in trouble. I was always in trouble. But she was telling on herself all the time. And I didn't ground her because I didn't love her. I grounded her because I was trying to keep her safe. And it was years later, her mother took her, and it was really bad. In the end, it was bad. And I cried and cried and cried, and she hated me. And my mom said, she won't thank you now, but one day she will. And she did. She came back to me and said, I know that you loved me. I know you did what you did because you loved me. So if you're feeling that somebody but you see, this could happen when you're a child. And as you grow up, you hold that energy, possibly, that if somebody gets mad at you, they don't like you. Well, maybe somebody in your family, like your mom, that reminds me of you, or you remind me of her, or my dad, or my cousin, or whatever, whoever it was, right? Whenever they would act like that, it was over, right? Like in my family, my mom was always saying, I want a divorce. I want a divorce. She would say that because she had had that happen to her, and she didn't want to be hurt. So whenever she felt like it was going that bad, she would say it first. And what did she do? She manifested the divorce in the end, right? And she regretted it. But I grew up hearing that my whole life. We're getting divorced. And it was like, no, my family's falling apart, right? So I've had abandonment issues my entire life. And it's always that's why I chased, right? If someone said that they cared about me and then they stopped talking or they went away from me, I couldn't let them go because I have abandonment issues. Now I understand. If somebody goes, they're not meant to be in your life. You're being protected, or they're learning a lesson, right? So allow love in. Know that if somebody gets angry, or if there's something that can't be done, or this cannot be allowed, or it's a rule to you and you don't agree with rules. Maybe you're somebody who doesn't agree with rules. Understand that you are understood, right? You're not the only one. We're all here. And we're all going through this life, and we all have strange ways of looking at things. And in order to live in a life, in a society with so many other rules and other people's belief systems, and things that you need to do in order to be correct or in order to be accepted, right? We're going to have to get to the place to allow things to be, right? And not judge ourselves that there's something wrong with me because that has to happen. Spirit shows us what our role in life is. People will say, well, what's my purpose? If you don't know what your purpose is, what is it that you love? What is it that you would do in your spare time? That's your purpose. Make it your job, right? Spirit will let you know. If you meditate on what it is, right? If somebody comes into your life and they say, they correct your behavior. I don't like the way that this is, you've done this, that, or the other, right? That's hard because especially as an empath, we're hard on ourselves already. So if somebody else says something to you, like I've had that, because I'll say or do something and I will have my higher self show me. I'll hear my higher self right away. And I'm like, I'm very hard on myself. So then if you tell me, you shouldn't do that, you've done this, this, and this, then I'm very ashamed because I'm already beating myself up with that, right? So it makes you want to pull away, right? So, but sometimes we don't realize when things are happening. And sometimes we don't realize if we said something or if we've done something. I have so many things that I've done wrong, right? And said wrong and behaved in a way that I shouldn't. And it's based on what I believed at the time, right? And we are constantly evolving, right? So like that lady, I met my mom's friend, right? And she was singing her praises, and I was in the middle of really not liking my mom right then because my dad kept recounting all of the negative things about my mom. And I was angry. I had stuff that I hadn't worked through. And she chastised me. She said, I don't know who that woman is that you're talking about, but that is not your mother. And she goes, and you need to ask yourself why you're saying the things that you're saying. And you need to make peace with that. And I was like, I'm a spiritual teacher. You don't need to tell me. And I didn't say that. I just got very quiet. And I didn't say anything. And I was very cool, actually. because it was hard for me to be corrected that way, because what I was focusing on was all of the stuff that, what I was focusing on was the truth. She had done all those things, but that wasn't all of who she was. She did do all of those things, but now she changed her life and this is who she is, right? And that person didn't know any part of that person. So it's kind of like when I went to Wisconsin, I got to be who I am, not who I was, right? Nobody had to know that I was married 4 times. Why were we married 4 times? Why did I feel the need to explain to everybody why I was, I mean, that's insane. Can you not stay married? What's wrong with you? You know, did you cheat on everybody? No. I mean, if you knew my story, it happened because it was meant to happen the way it was. Basically, I wasn't allowed to have sex unless I was married, so I married them, right? You might have been, how many people have you had sex with? I had sex with 4 people, right? So, but I felt that wasn't accepted. Of course it's not. You don't get married and divorced, married and divorced, married and divorced. Well, maybe some people do, right? But we feel like we have to give excuses. We need to be compassionate to ourselves. We need to allow ourselves to be understood, and we need to allow love for ourselves first. And then we need to adjust it as well for other people, and understand that if somebody says something to you and calls you out, like I got called out a while ago. Remember when my landlord was driving me nuts? You guys didn't see all the stuff that was going on in the background. You didn't see it. I had been a saint dealing with what I was dealing with. It was like emotional manipulation. It was driving me freaking crazy. And I videotaped that, and I spoke, and I just came out, and I knew as I was recording it, I shouldn't have, why are you doing this? I knew that. People are gonna see this. They're gonna look down at you. I heard you're gonna lose followers because of this. And yet I did it. And so somebody said to me, why do you think you did that? Why did you do that? And I said, it needed to be done. I needed